It's a Saturday night in June 1995. In one of Oslo's most luxurious hotels, 28 floors above the glittering lights of the Norwegian capital, a security guard walks down a long corridor. His name is Espen. He's 25 years old, and tonight he has been asked to check on a guest who has not paid her bill. He stops at room 2805. He knocks. And then he hears a gunshot from behind that door. What investigators find inside that room will baffle them for the next 3 decades, because the woman on the other side of that door will turn out to be one of the most mysterious, unidentified persons in modern European history. She checked in 3 days earlier under the name Jennifer Fairgate. That is not her real name. No one, to this day, knows who she actually was. To understand this case, you need to picture Oslo in May 1995. The Cold War had ended only a few years before. The world was still adjusting to a new order. Old alliances had shattered, intelligence agencies were in upheaval, and the borders between organized crime and government espionage had blurred in ways that were difficult, even for experts, to untangle. Into this world, on the evening of May 31st, 1995, at precisely 10:44 p.m., a woman walks into the lobby of the Oslo Plaza Hotel. At the time, it is the finest hotel in Norway. Tall, modern, gleaming, the kind of place where diplomats stay, where business deals worth millions are negotiated over dinner, where discretion is part of the service. The woman is stylish. She is dressed entirely in black, a long blouse, silk stockings, Italian-made heeled shoes. She is petite, around 5 feet 2 inches tall, with short, dark hair and pale blue eyes. She speaks fluent German and English, switching between them with practiced ease. She approaches the front desk and gives her name as Jennifer Fairgate. She says she is 21 years old. She provides an address in Verlaine, Belgium. She does not provide a credit card. She does not provide identification. Now, in 1995, a luxury hotel in Oslo, allowing a guest to check in without a credit card or ID is, to put it mildly, unusual. But the reception area is busy that night, full of newly arrived guests, and somehow, the routine is skipped. Jennifer is handed a key to room 2805 on the 28th floor. She also checks in a second guest, a man, she says, named Lois Fairgate. She rides the elevator up alone. No one sees the man named Lois Fairgate that night. For the next 3 days, the Do Not Disturb sign hangs on the door of room 2805. When police finally enter room 2805 on the evening of June 3rd, 50 minutes after the gunshot, they find Jennifer Fairgate lying on the bed. She is dead. A single gunshot wound to the head. In her right hand, a Browning 9mm pistol. At first glance, suicide. A troubled woman, alone in a foreign city, who chose this room as her final destination. But the investigators begin to look more carefully, and that is when the strangeness starts to accumulate. The gun in her hand. It is held upside down. The thumb is on the trigger, but the orientation is wrong. Awkward, in a way that seems almost staged. There is no gunshot residue on her hand. The door is double locked from the inside. But there is a second key card to the room, one that was issued to the mysterious Lois Fairgate. That key card has not been returned. A hotel worker reports hearing what sounds like a test shot, a muffled impact, sometime earlier in the day. A pillow found near the body has a hole in it, consistent with a suppressed discharge. This means one shot may have been fired into the pillow first. And then there are the belongings. She has no passport, no wallet, no purse, no toiletries, no personal photographs. Nothing that any ordinary traveler would carry. What she does have is a black attaché case. Inside, 25 rounds of 9mm ammunition. Another 7 rounds remain in the pistol's magazine. 32 rounds of ammunition. And no passport. Her clothing, the blazer hanging in the wardrobe, the coat, the blouse, the stockings. Every single label has been removed, cut out, carefully and deliberately stripped away, so that no country of origin, no brand, no manufacturer could be traced. Even the serial number on the Browning pistol has been erased, partially dissolved with acid. However Jennifer Fairgate was, she did not want to be found. And she succeeded, even in death. Norwegian police work the case hard. They release sketches of Jennifer's face, drawn from photographs. They circulate her description across Europe. They contact Interpol. They examine the hotel records, interview staff, review what little security footage exists. They go to Verlaine, Belgium, the town she wrote on her registration card. They find a Rue de la Station, just as she described. But the specific address she gave does not exist. The phone numbers she attempted to call from her room in the final hours of her life. 2 calls to the Serang and Grasse-Hollone areas of Belgium do not connect. There is no Jennifer Fairgate, no Lois Fairgate, no trace of either name in any database, anywhere in the world. The dental work found in her mouth is high quality, gold and porcelain, the kind commonly performed in the United States, Switzerland, the Netherlands, and Germany. It tells investigators she came from a place of relative wealth, but it does not tell them where. Forensic analysis using carbon-14 isotopes, the kind absorbed during nuclear testing in the atmosphere, allows scientists to estimate her birth year. She was likely born around 1971, making her approximately 23 or 24 years old at the time of her death, not 21, as she had claimed. One clue stands alone, strange and specific. On her left wrist, Jennifer wore a Citizen Aqualand diving watch, model CQ-1021-50. The battery had been replaced in March 1995, just 3 months before her death. A diving watch on a woman checking into a luxury hotel with no swimwear among her belongings. In a newspaper bag found in her room, someone had written the number 2816, room 2816, a nearby room on the same floor. An unidentified fingerprint was found on the bag. But in 1995, no one investigated who was staying in room 2816. And by the time investigators thought to ask, the hotel no longer had its guest records from that year. The guest registers for 1995 are gone. A woman staying in the room adjacent to 2816 had called police 6 days after Jennifer's death to report a suspicious foreign couple and strange sounds, banging, movement from a nearby room. No follow-up was ever made on that call. The kind that feels like a held secret. And a Belgian man, identified in the investigation only as Mr. X, had been staying in the room directly across the hall from Jennifer on the night she died. When investigators eventually tracked him down, years later, he claimed he had been informed of the death on the floor when he checked out on the morning of Saturday, June 3rd. The problem? Jennifer died on the evening of June 4th. Mr. X knew about the death before it was officially reported to have happened. No one could explain how. Over the decades since 1995, investigators and researchers have proposed several theories about who Jennifer Fairgate really was and what she was doing in Oslo. The first theory, and the one officially maintained by Norwegian police, is suicide. A troubled young woman, for reasons unknown, traveled to Oslo under a false name, checked into an expensive hotel, and ended her own life. The removed labels, the false identity, the ammunition, all of it a product of a deeply private mind, seeking to disappear completely, to die as no one. It is a theory that has never been dismissed, but it has also never fully satisfied those who have studied the case. Because of the gun held upside down, because of the missing gunshot residue, because of the test shot fired into a pillow, because of the second key card, because someone, it seems, left that room after she died. The second theory, and perhaps the most widely discussed, is espionage. Norway in 1995 occupied a strategically critical position in global intelligence. A NATO member sharing a border with Russia, Oslo was a hub for Cold War-era spy networks that had not yet fully dissolved. Intelligence agencies from multiple nations maintained significant operations in the country. A Norwegian intelligence officer who later reviewed the case told the documentary series Unsolved Mysteries that the removal of clothing labels, the use of an alias, and Jennifer's fluency in multiple languages were all consistent with standard intelligence tradecraft, the kind of tradecraft taught to field operatives, not to troubled young women checking into hotels alone. The timing is also significant. The Cold War had recently ended. Former KGB officers were moving into private intelligence work, into organized crime, into the murky space between the two. The post-Soviet world of 1995 was one where the line between a spy and a criminal had never been thinner. Some investigators have pointed to Norway's intelligence service, the E-14, noting the ease with which Jennifer checked in without ID, suggesting she may have had inside assistance. Others have pointed toward Russian intelligence, toward arms trafficking, toward any number of possible explanations for a young woman traveling alone with 32 rounds of ammunition and no identification. There is one more detail that gives the espionage theory weight. Jennifer Fairgate is not the only unidentified person to die mysteriously in Norway, with no identification and clothing labels removed. In 1970, a woman was found partially burned in a remote Norwegian valley called Isdalen, the Ice Valley. Like Jennifer, her clothing labels had been cut out. Like Jennifer, encrypted messages were found among her belongings. Like Jennifer, her true identity was never officially confirmed. A Belgian connection was found in that case, too. And in 1987, another unidentified man was found dead near train tracks in southern Norway. No identification. Labels removed from his clothing. DNA testing later revealed another Belgian connection. 3 unidentified bodies, 3 sets of removed labels, 3 links to Belgium. This may be a coincidence, or it may not. In 1996, 1 year after her death, the body of the woman who called herself Jennifer Fairgate was buried in an unmarked pauper's grave at Vestre Gravlund Cemetery in Oslo. No funeral rites, no headstone, no mourners. She was interred as no one. In 2020, 25 years after her death, her case was featured on Netflix's Unsolved Mysteries. A new wave of attention followed. Amateur investigators from around the world pored over the details. Journalists returned to Oslo, returned to Verlaine, returned to the hotel, now renamed the Radisson Blu Plaza, and tried again to find answers. None came. But new forensic tools have emerged that did not exist in 1995. Genetic genealogy, the technique that finally identified the Golden State Killer, that has solved cold cases across the United States, has not yet been applied to Jennifer's case in Norway. The country's legal framework has made its use in criminal investigations slow to develop. Journalist Lars Christian Wegner, who has spent years investigating the case, believes it may eventually be the key. Think about that for a moment. Somewhere in the world, there may be a family, a mother, a father, a sibling, who does not know what happened to their daughter, their sister, their friend, who has been wondering for 30 years where she went, who perhaps filed a missing person report in a small police office in Belgium or Germany or Switzerland that was never entered into an international database. Somewhere, someone knows the name on her birth certificate, and yet the silence holds. The case file remains open. Oslo's Assistant Chief of Police has stated that while the original conclusion of suicide remains valid, they are open to new information. Room 2805 still exists in that hotel. Guests stay there today, sleeping in the same room where a woman with no name and no past spent her final 70 hours alive, staring out at the lights of a city that never knew she was there. What were those 70 hours like? What was she waiting for? Who was she meeting? What mission, if there was one, brought her to that room on the 28th floor? Did she choose to die there? Or did someone choose it for her? We do not know. We may never know. There is something deeply human about a case like this. Not just the mystery, not just the unanswered questions, but the idea of a person, a real, living person, who walked through the world so carefully, so deliberately, that when she died, she left almost nothing behind. No name, no history, no family who came forward, no friend who recognized the sketch in the newspaper. She existed. She was born somewhere. She grew up somewhere. She learned to speak German and English. She traveled to Norway. She wore Italian shoes and a diving watch and a gold ring on her right hand. She was someone's daughter, and then she was gone. Not just from life, but from record entirely. As if she had reached out and erased herself from the world, leaving only questions where her story should have been. If you have ever seen someone who resembles the reconstruction of Jennifer Fairgate, a white woman, approximately 5'2", dark hair, blue eyes, fluent in German and English, born around 1971, possibly from Western Europe, Norwegian investigators still want to hear from you. The case, officially, is still open. Jennifer Fairgate, whoever she was, is buried in Oslo, unmarked, unknown, still waiting, in some sense, to be found. Thank you for listening tonight. If this story stayed with you, leave a comment below with your theory. I read every one of them. Subscribe if you're new, because there are more stories like this one waiting for you here. And if you know someone who loves true crime and mysteries, share this with them. Stay curious. Stay safe.